Former Georgia House Minority Leader Stacey Abrams is considering joining the crowded Democratic field for president. Abrams gained national attention during her battle to win the hotly contested Georgia governor's race last year, which she narrowly lost. She earned the support of former President Barack Obama and Oprah Winfrey. Her well-received State of the Union rebuttal this year further fueled speculation of a presidential or Senate bid. In her newly reissued memoir, Lead from the Outside: How to Build Your Future and Make Real Change, Abrams reflects on her career in politics and business. She also shares advice for those who want to follow in her footsteps. Stacey Abrams joins us first on CBS This Morning since her book was reissued. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So you had a lunch with Joe Biden, who's thinking about running too. It was the,
I did indeed.
It was the thinking about running lunch. And you said at that lunch, you talked about the presidency and what it means.
Absolutely.
What does the presidency mean right now?
I think the presidency is about reasserting who we are as a nation, our capacity for cohesion, and our ability to talk about marginalized communities and those who are outsiders without excluding the majority. There's this false dichotomy right now that you can either talk about those who are left out or you talk about those who feel like they're being left out, but you can't talk about both. And I think one of the vibrant parts of our conversation was that I believe you can talk about identity, and that means you can include everyone. Everyone wants to be seen, and the best politicians are the ones who can bring people together, not by pretending we all have the same issues, but by recognizing the obstacles that some of us face and the opportunities that all of us want.
Is this I mean, you're saying that's a challenge for the nation. Is this the political challenge for Democrats running for president? Because speaking about identity is important in primaries for both parties, but it can sometimes cause parties to be defined by those identity conversations happening within the clubhouse, and the rest of the country looks and says, oh, they're just talking to themselves.
I actually push back on that because I think we have to recognize that identities pervade all of us. We each come to the space with our histories and our challenges. The worst political spaces are the ones where you think that everyone has the exact same narrative and everyone has the exact same challenges. That doesn't exist in a household, let alone in a nation. When we are best, it's when we acknowledge that everyone faces different obstacles, but we all want the same thing. We want education, we want economic security, we want health care. The issue is having leaders of both parties who understand that there are different obstacles and different barriers, and they have plans for how you get there, but they never forget that we're all going in the same direction.
During that lunch with the vice president, let me ask you, did the conversation of a potential future ticket between the two of you, with vice president, you being his vice president on the ticket?
We talked about a lot of things, but that was not the core issue.
Okay.
Joe Biden's record has come under a lot of scrutiny lately. His position on school desegregation, his vote during the Clarence Thomas confirmation, his position on Anita Hill last night. He said, I wish I could have done something to get her a fairer hearing. Is that legitimate scrutiny? Did you talk to him about that? Does that matter in 2020?
So I'm having lunch and coffee and drinks and water with everyone running for president who is willing to talk to me. And part of the ability to do that is that I'm not going to talk about what we talk about. I will give broad brushstrokes. But
okay, then as a politician...
But here's what I would say. In my book, Lead from the Outside, I talk about the fact that we make mistakes based on the information we have at the time. And one of our responsibilities is to create space for people to understand that mistakes happen and that you can grow. And what I hope anyone running for president will do is acknowledge mistakes made, talk about what you've learned, and then apply those new lessons to how you intend to lead.
Let me ask you about the Barr report, because you gave an interview where you commented on it, Barr's interpretation of the Mueller report, right? And you said that I tend to think it's like having your brother summarize your report card to your parents. We should be deeply suspicious, especially since he had 12 tardies and at least 3 times ditching class. What are you trying to say with that? I'm
saying that it is inappropriate for us to assume we know what the Mueller report says until we can read the Mueller report. Having someone whose job it is not simply he's the Attorney General, but he became Attorney General in part because he chastised Mueller during the earlier process. I do not think we can assume that what he has reported in his summary is an accurate summary of the report. But the best way to know what was said in the report is to read the report. And my belief is, until we've seen the report, we don't know what it says.
One quick other piece of political business. You said you've been meeting with and having drinks with everybody who's thinking about running for president. When you drink alone, are you having drinks with somebody who's thinking about running for president?
I am.
Yes, good question.
Yes, we have sipped English breakfast tea together in the morning. I am deeply appreciative of those who have encouraged me to run for a variety of offices. I will say the presidency wasn't top of mind to begin with, but I think that the success I had in our election, transforming the electorate, the work I've done as a business leader, as a civic leader, as a political leader, positions me to be just as capable of becoming the president of the United States as anyone running. My responsibility, though, is to make sure I'm running for the right reasons and at the right time. And this is not the conversation I was having with myself last year.
What was the most important takeaway for you, having lost the governor's race? What was the most important?
I would like to say I did not win the governor's race.
Nice.
And here's why I see a distinction. Part of how leadership evolves, especially for those of us who are from outside the normative space, is that we have to characterize what happened. I was not successful in part because I think there was mismanagement and malfeasance in the election process. But I also have an obligation to think about what I can do better next time. And in my mind, the first responsibility was to not concede, because that validated a system that I do not believe was proper. But I also have the responsibility to take action, because it's insufficient to simply complain about what you don't like if you're not doing something to fix it. And that's why I launched Fair Fight Action. It's why we've just launched Fair Count, which is looking at the census process. My job and my takeaway is that I have more work to do. And my next responsibility is to figure out how that plays out in the electoral space.
There are a number of women, there are a number of minority candidates running for this Democratic nomination. Is this the year one of them ends up being the nominee?
I believe so. And for me, the conversation that led to me writing Lead from the Outside is that we have to start evolving what the face of leadership looks like. But that means we have to have practical tips. It's not enough to dream that you want to be things. You have to have a pathway there. And what I've tried to do in this book is not just talk about my life, because I'm vaguely interesting, but
very more than vaguely interesting.
But really, I want to talk about how I made mistakes, how I figured out solutions, how I hacked opportunity, because the way we get to a changing and more vibrant representation of who we are is that people who don't see themselves as part of the conversation find that they can be part of the conversation.
And did we mention you're also a romance novelist? There's so much to talk about. Stacey Abrams, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Lead from the Outside is on sale right now.